success. There were stories about how, during the right season, a person could wade into Lake Tenochtitlan, the center of the Aztec world, with a couple of agave fiber nets and come back with 20 to 30 pounds of larvae and other aquatic insects within a few hours. That might not sound so great to us, but when compared with the difficulties, dangers, and unreliability of hunting, it's a pretty darn awesome return on investment. That's a big load of high-quality protein, fats, minerals, and vitamins for remarkably little effort, energy, and risk. I knew when I went to Mexico that I was definitely going to have to try edible insects for myself. It was also one of the few easily observable practices that was a clear holdover from earlier times. Certainly, there are many foods that remain as popular today in Mexico as they were when they were first cultivated and developed by the Aztecs. Corn tortillas, tamales, beans, chilies. But the historic purity of many of these foods is somewhat diluted with modern ingredients, such as lard, and modern processing machines. Insects, however, are often eaten just as they were thousands of years ago, dried in the sun, toasted on a comal, a flat, earthenware cooking surface, or ground up in a molcajete, a mortar and pestle carved from volcanic rock, one of the world's oldest kitchen tools. In the cities, insects are generally deemed a delicacy, and their price reflects this. But in the countryside, where the majority of native people live, they are more a way of life. For me, this lent them a certain wholeness as an unbroken tie to the past, and thus anthropologically interesting in terms of my goal of recording the modern life of ancient traditions. When I saw a middle-aged woman, dressed in a brightly colored Mayan wrap, selling toasted grasshoppers in the Oaxaca city square, it was a no-brainer. I paid my 20 pesos and received a little paper bag of the brick-red bugs. I took my roasted grasshoppers, called chapulines, and sat down at a table in an outdoor cafe. I was definitely going to need something to wash this down with. I ordered a Coke and poured the chapulines out onto the white tablecloth, intending to take a cool photograph before sampling them. Just as I was getting ready to brave my first bite of bug, the strangest thing happened. Kids from the street, likely of Trique indigenous descent, made a beeline for me and began eating the chapulines right off my table, without even asking. I hardly had time to grab a few for myself as they gobbled them right up. Now, I've thought about this in the years since it happened. Yes, the kids were likely hungry. More than 70% of Oaxacans live in extreme poverty. These children spend their days begging tourists on the streets of the city while their parents sell various things in the market. Elotes, a chili-spiced corn on the cob, indigenous crafts and trinkets, and, of course, toasted insects. The kids had probably seen lots of tourists buy a bag of chapulines for the experience, eat one or two, squinch up their faces, take a few photos, and throw the rest away. The kids must have supposed, she won't care, she's a tourist. Let's get 'em while the getting's good, while they're still crispy and we don't have to fish them out of the trash. On the one hand, it could be interpreted as a bit Dickensian. On the other, Cheetos are technically made of yuckier stuff than this. I managed to taste a few chapulines, and I probably would have thrown the rest away. They tasted unfamiliar, sort of like a shriveled, spicy, slightly burned potato chip. But mostly, the mind gets in the way, telling you it won't be safe or good to eat too many. Heck, you might turn into a bug yourself. Dickens meets Kafka? But there are lots of foods I love that others are slightly grossed out by. Beef tongue, smelly fermented soybeans, tinned sardines and oysters, oily raw mackerel, and all manner of fish eggs. So why not bugs? What struck me was that it seemed like the kids were eating them because they liked them. They genuinely wanted to eat them, just like American kids want to eat Cheetos. Over the years, I have seen plenty of well-fed kids happily eat handfuls of bugs, usually when their parents aren't looking. One 4-year-old boy ate more than 2 dozen of my sautéed larvae at a demonstration in Georgia until his mother physically dragged him away, still chewing. He had been literally and hilariously shoving other kids out of the way to get his hands on the mothling morsels. A 6-year-old in Niagara Falls, Canada, ate 6 big fried crickets, to the shock and awe of the audience and her conservative Indian family. I've had kids sneak back for seconds, thirds, fourths, and beyond, happily crunching away behind their parents' backs. While prepping for a television shoot in San Francisco for KQED, the Bay Area's PBS member station, one crew member's 6-year-old daughter